Have you ever wondered why love seems so elusive, even when you search for it everywhere? What if unconditional love isn't something you find? It's the reality flowing through you right now. Imagine the Sufi image of a single blade of grass, each one filled with the same divine love that runs through the entire universe. This ancient perspective suggests that love is hidden in plain sight, waiting just beneath the surface of your everyday experience. By the end, you'll see how recognizing this changes both your relationships and your sense of self. But before we can understand this Sufi secret, we need to look at why love often feels so out of reach. For many people, the experience of longing for love is a quiet undercurrent in everyday life. You might notice it in moments when, despite being surrounded by others or achieving something you thought would bring happiness, there's still an ache that lingers. This sense of incompleteness often grows out of a belief that love is something you must earn or obtain from outside yourself. From early on, we're taught, sometimes subtly, sometimes directly, that love is a reward for being good enough, successful enough, or fitting into a certain mold. The world starts to feel like a place where affection and belonging are exchanged for achievements, appearance, or approval. Consider the woman scrolling through social media, comparing her life to curated highlight reels, quietly hoping that more likes or comments will fill the emptiness she feels. The friend who pours himself into work, chasing recognition as a substitute for affection, or the man who gives generously, hoping gifts will prove his worth. These are all variations of the same hidden search. Each person turns outward, looking for love in validation, accomplishment, or the approval of others, expecting fulfillment but often ending up with the same restlessness. Even when love appears within reach, perhaps in the excitement of a new relationship or the praise of a parent, it can slip away, leaving behind an unsettling emptiness. After the initial glow fades, the old longing returns, as if nothing has truly changed. This cycle is reinforced by cultural messages, especially in Western societies, which often treat love as a transaction, something to be negotiated, earned, or competed for. Modern life encourages this mindset, making it easy to believe that love is scarce or conditional, always just out of reach. Yet almost everyone can recall moments when love felt different, effortless, natural, and complete. Maybe you've watched a child run into a parent's arms or cared for a friend simply because you wanted their well-being. In these moments, love doesn't feel like a deal or a reward. It's present for its own sake, not contingent on what's given or received. Rumi often used the metaphor of the moth drawn to the flame to describe how love transforms ordinary acts into something luminous, suggesting that even simple care can become a signpost to something greater. In the Masnawi, Rumi writes, "You are searching the world for treasure, but the real treasure is yourself." This line comes from Rumi's Masnawi, where he teaches that the treasure you seek in the world is really the divine spark within your own heart. These rare glimpses point to a kind of love that isn't bound by expectation or fear, a love that feels complete and unconditional. Stories from Sufi tradition echo this theme. The Kamal Posh mystics, for example, searched far and wide for love, seeking wisdom across prophets and distant lands. Only when they encountered Muhammad did they recognize that the love they sought had always been present, waiting to be seen rather than found elsewhere. Their journey reveals that the barrier was not the absence of love in the world, but the way they were searching for it. The ache persisted not because love was missing, but because their gaze was fixed outward, always seeking, never recognizing what was already within. This endless search shapes not just our relationships, but our sense of self. It can create a persistent tension, a feeling that something is missing or that you are not enough. The restlessness, the anxiety when overlooked, the quiet ache at the end of the day, all are symptoms of looking for love as if it were a rare commodity to be found outside. Sufi poets and teachers have long recognized this pattern, weaving it through their verses and stories. Their message is clear: the search for love outside yourself is a misunderstanding of its true nature. If you step back and question this habit of seeking, you might begin to sense that the real issue isn't the scarcity of love, but the way you're looking for it. Perhaps love isn't a distant goal to win, but a reality already present, subtle but always here, just hidden by habits of searching and comparing. The first step may not be to search harder, but to see differently. This shift in perspective opens the door to a radically different understanding of love, one that invites you to pause and consider what might already be woven into the fabric of life itself. Sufi wisdom approaches love from a perspective that may feel unfamiliar at first. At its heart is Wahdat al-Wujud, literally, unity of existence, a term used by Ibn Arabi to mean that all of creation shares the same divine being. Rather than seeing love as something rare or reserved for special people or moments, Sufis teach that love is the underlying reality connecting everything. According to this view, the boundaries we imagine between ourselves and others, or even between ourselves and the world, are not ultimate. They are habits of perception, not reflections of how things truly are. Imagine if love were as constant and vital as the air you breathe, present in all things, not just in dramatic gestures or private moments. Sufis describe love as the very fabric of existence, flowing through a parent's embrace, a single blade of grass, or even the silent glance of a stranger. This isn't just poetic language. The Sufi understanding is that love is the animating force of creation, always present, though often unnoticed. Just as you rarely notice the air until it's missing, love's presence can be overlooked because it is so fundamental, so close. The story of the Kamal Posh, the blanket wearers, gives shape to this idea. These early mystics wore nothing but a single woolen blanket, Suf, and wandered in search of spiritual fulfillment. Despite their devotion, they found themselves restless until they encountered the Prophet Muhammad. According to Sufi tradition, his silent presence created love in their hearts, and their dissatisfaction melted away. Their story isn't about finding something new, but about recognizing a love that was always possible, awakened from within when they were ready to see it. This principle changes how everyday experiences of love are understood. Sufis see the many forms of love, parental, friendly, romantic, or even the appreciation of nature, not as separate, but as different expressions of the same divine reality. When a sunset stirs your heart, or a song brings tears, Sufi poets like Rumi suggest that what you feel is the echo of the soul's longing for its source. Rumi's image of the reed flute, cut from the reed bed and singing its sorrow, shows how ordinary longing points to something deeper, the soul's yearning for reunion with the divine. Scripture supports this view. The Quran says, "Whom he loves and who love him." Sufis interpret this as a living, two-way current of love, flowing from and to the divine. Your longing for love, in this light, is not a flaw or a lack, but evidence of a connection that is always at work, one that shapes your experience and links you to everything else that exists. Sufi poets make these concepts tangible. Rumi's verses, filled with passion and longing, use familiar language to describe a love that is both deeply personal and boundless. The pain and beauty in his poems are not just about human desire, but about the soul's movement toward the beloved. The story of Layla and Majnun, often told by Sufis, is more than a tale of romantic obsession. It's an allegory for spiritual longing. Majnun's search for Layla becomes the seeker's journey toward the perfection of divine love, and the realization that all love ultimately points back to its single source. Ibn Arabi, another great Sufi mystic, taught that the divine is both the inwardly hidden and the outwardly manifest, meaning that every part of reality shares the same living essence. There are no true boundaries. Everything is interconnected, and love is the thread that runs through it all. In this way, Sufi wisdom invites you to see every act of love, no matter how small or fleeting, as a response to the divine essence present in all things. Love is not a scarce resource to be hoarded or chased, but the very ground of being itself. But if love is so present, why does it still feel so far away for so many people? There must be something that blocks this experience, some barrier that keeps us from seeing what Sufis say is always here. The Sufi tradition points to a set of subtle barriers that quietly shape how you experience love in daily life. Sufis call these inner clouds ego, attachments, fears, and expectations. Each acts as a filter, distorting your perception and making love feel scarce or out of reach, even when it is always present. Ego is considered the strongest of these veils. In Sufi thought, ego is not just pride or arrogance, but the persistent sense of being a separate self, an I that stands apart from everyone and everything else. This mindset leads to a constant cycle of comparison, the search for approval, and the feeling that love must be earned or proven. Sufi mystic Al-Hallaj captured this struggle when he said, "Between you and me there lingers an it is I which torments me. Ah, lift this it is I from between us both." He meant the sense of separateness that painfully blocks our experience of union. The ego's voice is subtle, always asking for more attention, more praise, more proof that it matters. Yet every time this hunger is fed, a deeper emptiness returns. Attachments form another veil. These are the things, people, routines, or outcomes you feel you cannot live without. While relationships and possessions can bring comfort, Sufis warn that clinging too tightly to any one thing can block the flow of real love. In the story of Layla and Majnun, Majnun's tears watered a rosebush, but his longing was fixed on Layla alone. The rose, a symbol of divine beauty, went unnoticed. This illustrates how attachment to a single image or outcome can prevent you from recognizing love in all its forms. The tighter your grip, the more you miss the spacious, unconditional nature of love that Sufis describe. Fear is a third veil, often underestimated in its power. The fear of loss, rejection, or vulnerability can close the heart, making it difficult to give or receive love fully. After heartbreak or disappointment, you may notice your heart pulling back, trying to protect itself. Sufi teachers see this ache not as a sign that love is gone, but as proof that the heart's longing for divine love is permanent and cannot be erased. The pain of fear is itself a signpost pointing back toward the love that is always available, if only the heart can open again. Expectations are the final veil. These are the ideas you hold about how love should look or feel, how it should arrive, how long it should last, or what it should provide. When reality fails to match these expectations, disappointment often follows, and love seems to vanish. Rumi's poetry often warns against wanting love only on your terms, using images like wine to suggest that love's true nature is unpredictable and cannot be contained by rigid demands. When you insist on love appearing in a certain way, you overlook the countless subtle ways it is already present. Sometimes these veils are reinforced by old wounds or habits. Imagine someone who, after years of self-criticism, finds it hard to accept even small acts of kindness. Compliments or gestures of care are met with suspicion, and any attempt to offer love is deflected. Here, love has not disappeared. It is simply blocked by patterns built to protect, but now only confine. Even Sufi mystics faced these same veils. Their stories include long periods of struggle, wrestling with doubt, pride, and longing. Through patient attention and honest reflection, their hearts gradually softened, and the illusion of separation began to fade. The Sufi path does not promise instant clarity. It is a process of noticing these veils at work and learning to loosen their hold. Recognizing these veils is only the first step. Next, Sufis turn to practices designed to lift them away and reveal the love beneath. Dhikr means remembrance, specifically the practice of repeating divine names to reconnect with the ever-present unity of love. In Sufism, dhikr is not simply a ritual or tradition. It is a practical method for softening the heart and clearing away the inner clouds of ego, attachment, fear, and expectation. Each act of remembrance is a way of returning your attention to what is constant and real, even as daily life pulls you in many directions. Sufi teachers often say dhikr is like washing dust from the window of the heart. Time, this gentle repetition, allows the light of love to shine through, making it possible to experience unity as a lived reality rather than just an idea. At its core, dhikr involves quietly or audibly repeating divine names or sacred phrases with full attention and intention. This isn't about escaping what's difficult or reaching for a temporary high. Instead, it's a process of meeting whatever arises in your mind or heart: distraction, restlessness, longing, with a steady return to presence. Each repetition is a small act of turning inward, a reminder that love is not fleeting or conditional, but is the ground beneath every experience. As you practice, the constant noise of craving and self-concern often quiets. The heart becomes more receptive, the sense of separation softens, and the world can feel less divided. One of the clearest examples of what remembrance can awaken is found in the life of Rabia al-Adawiyya, a 9th-century Sufi mystic. Rabia's devotion introduced the theme of divine love as central to Sufism. She prayed not for rewards but for the capacity to love without limits. Her life, marked by hardship and solitude, did not harden her heart. Instead, through remembrance, she found that even grief and longing could become pathways to deeper love. Rabia's prayers were not requests for comfort or escape, but invitations for her heart to remain open to love in every circumstance. She taught that only union with the divine could heal the deepest wounds, and her example continues to inspire Sufis to this day. Remembrance is not limited to solitary practice. Sufi gatherings create a living environment for awakening the heart. These gatherings often center around poetic recitation, rhythmic chant, and sohbet, spiritual conversation. In these settings, voices join in repeating divine names, and the rhythm of the chant draws everyone present into a shared sense of unity. Sohbet, which literally means sitting near, is more than just discussion. It is a kind of spiritual dialogue where mystical knowledge and devotional love are transmitted from heart to heart, often bypassing ordinary reasoning. Sufi tradition holds that a single true sohbet can bring a deeper realization than years of solitary prayer, because it is alive with presence and connection. Practitioners often report a deepening sense of calm and connection as they continue with these practices. The purpose of dhikr and sohbet is not to chase bliss or avoid pain, but to wake up to the loving presence that holds every moment. Each repetition softens the grip of ego and expectation. Over time, what once felt like separation can begin to dissolve, and the unity described by Sufi sages becomes not just a concept, but something you sense in your relationships, your work, and your everyday life. Rather than pulling you away from ordinary experience, these practices reveal the depth and meaning already present in daily life. The more you engage with remembrance, whether alone, in a gathering, or in conversation, the easier it becomes to notice love in unexpected places. The heart grows more open, and your sense of self can shift from isolation to belonging. With each repetition softening the heart, what might you notice if you brought this practice into your day? Recognizing unconditional love as the ground of reality shifts everything. This perspective asks you to see what's always been here, not to add something new. We contrasted conditional love's endless search, saw love as reality itself in Wahdat al-Wujud, identified the veils, and explore dhikr as the path to remembrance. Tonight, spend 1 minute repeating a simple divine name, like Allah or Hu, as you breathe, and notice any shift in awareness. The journey begins with a moment of honest reflection, inviting you to notice love beneath daily experience. If this resonated, share in the comments one moment when love surprised you in the everyday, and subscribe for more ancient wisdom on Awakening Within.